What's up, guys? Here with you with FC Wonderkid, episode 56. Here with my guy, Breton. How are you?
If I was any better, I'd be you. Oh, geez, that's terrible.
What?
That's terrible. Yeah, because you look pretty good today, I gotta say. And after such a busy week of football, we've got way too much to talk about. I mean, where do you want to start?
Yes,
where you want to get?
We gotta start with the big league, the Premier League, and we got the awards. The awards of the best manager, the best player, and the youngster of the year, right?
Yep.
Where'd you want to get it started, so?
Well, I mean, we could start with, why don't we start with player of the season, since I think that's got quite a few omissions, deletions, whatever you want to call it, that are pretty suspect. We've got 8 nominations, and it goes Trent Alexander-Arnold, we've got Jared Bowen, João Cancelo, Kevin De Bruyne, Bukayo Saka, Mo Salah, Son, and then JWP from Southampton. I'd say he's the classiest guy on the list.
Why is he there?
I don't know. I think more. Yeah. Go ahead.
I gotta say, like, who you didn't say was the biggest and the best player that should be there, and it's Cristiano Ronaldo, man. How is he omitted off this list of the best player this season in the Premier League when Cristiano Ronaldo this season is the player with the most player of the months, okay, in the Premier League. So it makes no sense for him not to be nominated in the best player of that season, man. No sense. And Sadio Mane. Oh.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, these are massive snubs. That is a big snub. I mean, Diogo Jota, Sadio Mane, Bernardo Silva, and you're right, Ronaldo. And that's not Manchester United bias or lack of, negative bias towards United. That's seemingly negative bias just towards Ronaldo and the impact he had, at least statistically, for United this year, because they'd be a lot worse without him. Aside from Ronaldo, you think it's Sadio Mane as the biggest snub? He should have been there. He should be in this 8.
I'd say Sadio Mane, and if James Ward-Prowse is there, I sure don't understand why not is Declan Rice, man. What does he have to do for Declan Rice to be in that nominees too? For me, if people are saying he's one of the best midfielders in the world after this season, Declan Rice, why isn't he there and James Ward-Prowse is there? For me, it doesn't make sense too, so I'd say Declan Rice too. And just like Saka's nominated for the Young Player of the Year, and Trent too. So they're both nominated for Young Player of the Year and the Best Player. So it makes no sense, Declan there.
Yeah, and if they're nominated for Young Player, put them in the Young Player, put 2 others here, and there you go. You get Ronaldo, you get Diogo Jota, you get Saka. I just don't understand why 8, right? We can have 10. We have 10. We're having less of an issue here. James Ward-Prowse has done nothing phenomenal things for the Southampton team that he's in. But collectively, I mean, would I put him amongst Sadio Mane, Bernardo Silva's impact for City this year, Cristiano Ronaldo's impact, and we haven't even mentioned Virgil van Dijk. It doesn't make much sense, but here is the cynical way to look at this, Alex. The cynical way to look at this is, does it really matter, per se, from our perspective as fans? Does it really matter? Because it's coming down to, it's like Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah, and maybe on the outside looking in, Son, right? Who you're picking out of those 3, that's really what it comes down to. But from a personal, what's the word? Like confirmation of the seasons that they've had, I feel for these guys because Diogo Jota, Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk, Bernardo Silva, CR7, they all deserve that type of confirmation that what they've done this year is spectacular.
I think you hit the money. What you said, it's between 3 players. It's between Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, and Son. And it's understandable to put Son in the mix because people say Son is one of the most underrated players in the world of football, and I completely agree with that. And there's another stat too that with Son, Kane too is there, Son and Kane have played together for 7 years, and they are yet to win one trophy with Tottenham. And I do believe now with the signs that Conte, masterclass of Conte, especially late stages we're seeing, giving a proper fight to Arsenal with that top 4. I do believe next season Son is gonna get finally a trophy. And yeah, I don't believe he's gonna win the best player of the season because he doesn't get that award, or maybe top 4. I think Arsenal will get it. So yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know if Son has a better season from here on out. I don't think he's going to have a better season here on out for Tottenham, for Spurs, right? He might win a trophy, but statistically, 21 non-penalty goals, 9 assists. A lot of that came when Harry Kane had not yet gotten started running yet, you know? So his season really can't be discounted. It's just he comes up against, it's a little bit of a biased award towards those that win the Premier League, right? So they're not going to win. They could finish 3rd, although it's probably not likely. They could finish 4th. Although, you know, Arsenal's putting up a fight. So I don't know. I think this is probably the best year that Son is ever going to have in a Spurs shirt. And
I believe next season. I believe next season.
But I just mean statistically speaking. I don't mean... Yeah.
I'd say even that. Because
really?
the best Son was with Conte. And I believe he's going to keep on going. And if they're going to win a trophy, they'll need a player with even bigger numbers than this year's Son. So if we see teams like City, Liverpool, and imagine if Son actually scores the pens too. Imagine if Son actually just scores some of like 5 or 6 pens. I really believe in it.
Harry Kane, stop being so greedy. Give him a couple, you know? Well, we do definitely want to, we have to shout out the fact that Jared Bowen is there. I mean, the season that Jared Bowen has had, and I know West Ham has slowed down a little bit over time, although they did their best against Manchester City over the weekend, almost pipped the win. But Jared Bowen had a brace against Man City. He's got 12 goals, 12 assists on the season. And I believe, and you're about to mention, so I don't want to steal your thunder, he has almost the same goal of involvement as...
Kevin. He's got the same goal of involvement as Kevin De Bruyne. Or almost the same. Almost.
Yeah.
Oh.
Almost.
Jeez.
Almost. But yeah, I think when it comes down to it, while Son might be on the outside looking in, I think it's going to come down to Salah, it's going to come down to De Bruyne, and it's going to come down to whoever wins the Premier League, which right now, if it's Manchester City, right, if we go with the odds-on favorite, it likely puts Kevin De Bruyne at the top of this list, and understandably so, because the second half of the season that he has had has been unreal, and like you mentioned off camera, the 4 goals he put in the other day were just absolutely unbelievable. I mean,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
4 goals, 1 ball in the post. The full conduction of the game was on Kevin De Bruyne. And what I gotta say too is like the celebration. Clearly already saying, I'm expecting you, Haaland. And yeah, Haaland, Foden, Kevin De Bruyne next season. No excuses. He's gotta get the Prem too, I'd say. But yes, Kevin De Bruyne, he's got to be the man. He's got to be the man for the importance. And if City win the Premier League ahead of a team like Liverpool, that, we're mentioning no Virgil van Dijk, no Mane, even in the nominees, they got to, I say De Bruyne. I'd say De Bruyne too.
Yeah. And just imagine next year with Haaland. I think you're going to see, if De Bruyne has 15 goals this year and he has 7 assists, and he stays healthy next year, I think you're going to see something like 15-22, right? 15 goals, 22 assists from him, because just imagine how, I don't know, with Haaland's finishing, that we can get to that later on, because I've got a lot to say about Haaland's transfer. But the other person I want to shout out here before we move on is Riyad Mahrez. I don't think he played enough or started enough in the Premier League this year to necessarily have the impact necessary to be nominated for this. But He had 11 goals, 5 assists in like 14 Premier League starts this season. Add to that the fact that he's got 24 goals, 9 assists all across the board. I get it. He's 31. I get there's some camps of the City faithful that feel like he's expendable and can be replaced. But the season, I don't know. I mean, the season that he has put in has really flown under the radar, at least for me. Maybe it's because I purposefully didn't look at him. But he has put in one hell of a Premier League, one hell of a shift for Manchester City this whole season. So got to give, kudos to him, even if it doesn't rise to the level of being named in the Player of the Season nominees. So
I completely agree with you. Mahrez is that guy. He's that guy. For Algeria, too. He's the main man. And he's underrated. I completely agree with you. Underrated player and great show. Tell us down below, people, who are your nominees for the best player in who is the best player in the Premier League this season, in your opinion, people. And tell us your thoughts and why. I'd like to see some reasons why. So, wanna go with the youngsters?
Gotta. I mean, I feel like it was wrong of us to start with the big boys. We should have started with the youngsters, considering, FC Wonderkid. But all right, here we go. You're going to recognize some names here. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. We've got Phil Foden, Mason Mount, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Aaron Ramsdale, Conor Gallagher, and Tyrick Mitchell. I just have to say, first and foremost, that I don't understand what are the qualifications to be essentially nominated for this. 23 seems old, I think, to all of us, even though that is our cutoff point for Wonderkids and all that fun stuff. But honestly, like if Trent has essentially been a full-blown professional and putting up solid numbers for the last 4 years, 5 seasons maybe, why is he nominated for this? And if you're nominated for Play of the Season, I just don't get it. That's my first thing. My second thing is no Reece James, no Mark Cucurella, no. I mean, Mark Gahey, even like Jacob Ramsey deserves a shout. But once again, who do you take off? And really, I got to pick on it's Crystal Palace over Brighton, or it's Crystal Palace over anybody else here. And Tyrick Mitchell has put in a solid shift this year. He leads in tackles won, definitely for U23s. But Mark Cucurella, I believe, has done more for Brighton than Tyrick Mitchell has done for Crystal Palace. Sorry.
So do you believe Cucurella will be a better player than Tyrick Mitchell?
Yes, I do. I think he's got more dimensions to his game than Tyrick Mitchell does. But Tyrick Mitchell has put in a this is what is wrong with nominees and getting on, getting off, whatever. And this is why there should probably be 10. But it causes you to pick one over the other when they both put in fine seasons. But there's a couple snubs here, and the fact that Graham Potter's not in the manager list, and the fact that Mark Cucurella isn't at least on the young player list, considering he came from La Liga, considering he had to transition into what is widely considered the hardest league on the planet to play in, you would think that he'd get a little bit of an extra kind of, I don't know, a weighting or a bump in the nominees. And no Reece James surprises the crap out of me when it comes to this, especially if you're putting Tyrick Mitchell up there. For most of the season, Reece James and Chelsea were fighting for a Premier League title until they fell off. So I don't know if it's just because he spread it out amongst all competitions and he wasn't as dominant, if you will, in the Premier League, but it feels weird to not have him in there. I don't know. I mean, were there any other snubs for you in these nominees?
I'd say I would have say Smith Rowe. I'd say Smith Rowe for me is the player that I'd say he maybe he should be there. I don't know Gabriel if he can be. No, he can't, right?
No, he's like
24 right now. So no, I think I like the players there, but yes, if Reece James for me too, I gotta go with you with what you said. If Tyrick Mitchell is here, Reece James, in my opinion, should be instead because he's a better player. I agree with you. But
Eh.
the player that's gonna win it, for me, that's the interesting thing, though. It's, will you reward Saka for maybe getting the top 4 for Arsenal? Will you reward Declan Rice? Because Declan Rice isn't nominated for the best player this season.
Yeah.
So were they thinking like, oh, he's not nominated for the best player, so let's give him the youngster? So I really don't know the thought process over here, but I'd say I'd give it to Foden. I'd give it to Foden.
What?
Because, yeah,
No way.
I'd give it to Phil Foden. Yes, I'd give it to Phil Foden. Yeah,
No.
I'd give it to
absolutely
Phil Foden.
not. Okay, Phil Foden, first off, he won it last year. Secondly, while he's been great for City, and please, City fans, don't take
but who'd you put instead of Foden?
Well, I would put either Declan Rice or Bukayo Saka.
Okay.
Okay. First off, Phil Foden's 9 goals, 5 assists. You've got Declan Rice has been the Iron Man for West Ham. He's even done it on the offensive end. He's been the captain at times. And he's really taken West Ham to new levels, even though they have fallen off a little bit near the end of the season. And Bukayo Saka has, outside of Mason Mount, Bukayo Saka has 11 goals, 6 assists. And considering the narrative arc of Arsenal's season, right? You almost feel like Bukayo Saka should get a little more clout for this. So I think really my pick for this is going to be Declan Rice. Bukayo Saka a very narrow second. And third place, to be honest, I'd put Mason Mount in there.
Ahead of Foden. Like, oh my days. Like,
yeah, I just because he won last season, and I don't think you're going to see a repeat.
It does make sense what you're saying. Like that, it does make sense. But like for me, Foden is in importance for City, absolutely crucial. And even when Kevin De Bruyne was out, if there was a player pumping it, it was Phil Foden. So tell us, people down below, who is your youngster of the year? And yeah, go bold, just like I seem to have done by picking Foden. So, manager of the year. We got some interesting nominees too, right?
I do have some interesting nominees for you. All right, we've got Jurgen Klopp. So interesting. We've got Pep Guardiola. We've got Eddie Howe. We've got Patrick Vieira and Thomas Frank. So here, instead of going with 8 managers, we went with 5 managers. We went with 3, in my opinion, that likely don't deserve to be there as much as maybe some others. The fact that Graham Potter is not there is a travesty to me. And the fact that David Moyes is not there is also a travesty to me. I think Patrick Vieira, and I think we're going to disagree on this, Patrick Vieira and Thomas Frank, one of them deserves to be there, but Eddie Howe, I don't really understand why Eddie Howe is in there.
What?
They've gone with Eddie Howe has been there since November, okay? And he has won more points than, yes, they won early on in the season. He has managed a takeover. He's managed a massive injection of finances. Yes, he has turned around the club within the clubhouse. But he's only done it since November. They're 11 wins, 10 losses, 5 draws since he's taken over. Okay, well, with much less in resources, Graham Potter has taken Brighton and done 11 wins, 11 losses, 14 draws, actually 15 draws, I think. And he's, not top of the table, but he is once again punching above his weight in the league, playing very, very attractive football without a strike force that any one of us would deem world-class in any capacity. Neil Maupay, Danny Welbeck, right? Who's actually scoring for them. So I really think with less resources, Graham Potter absolutely deserves to be nominated there. And I would also say the same about David Moyes. Considering the narrative of where we thought West Ham was in disarray, and then they're still fighting for 6th, 7th European football. I really do believe that they deserve to be in here. Thomas Frank, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's done a lot in his first season, but what do you think?
I agree with you with Graham Potter Shaw. I think that's an excellent show for the management he does at the club. David Moyes, I think it's good too, like the management he's been doing with West Ham. But with both Graham Potter, I'd like to think he's got more of a decision making on top. But David Moyes, he used the players that were there, and he seemed to have managed to exploit the potential of them. But I can't pick ahead of Eddie Howe, personally me, because I remember speaking to you, and we were talking if Newcastle was going to get relegated. And you said they were going to get relegated. And Eddie Howe switched completely, and there was games that Newcastle played that they were bossing against the top 4 in the Premier League. And that's another thing, too, that makes me, completely side with Patrick Vieira being in the nominees, because Patrick Vieira is his first time in the Premier League this season. He is the top in the bookies to go, straight ahead of the season. The expectations is for him to go relegation and to go down. He picks the right players to come. He plays excellent football, and I'd say Crystal Palace is one of the best teams in the Premier League outside of the top 6, playing against top teams, because you got City having trouble against them, Arsenal having trouble against them, Conor Gallagher, Olise, they exploit so well, and that's because of Patrick Vieira. So I agree that Thomas Frank shouldn't be there. I put Graham Potter or David Moyes ahead, but I cannot take Patrick Vieira. What a season, man. What a season.
Yeah, I just don't think Patrick Vieira deserves to be there over Graham Potter or David Moyes. Absolutely not, in my opinion. And I'm pretty adamant about it. And the Thomas Frank thing, if you're going to say that Vieira is good against, top competition and whatnot, and you're saying it's his first time in the Premier League, Thomas Frank deserves to be there then as well. It's his first time. It's the first time Brentford's been there. No, he didn't.
And the Etihad?
But Crystal Palace, did Brighton? No, Brighton did in May of last year. That's what it was. Brighton did in May of last year, and I don't think it was at the Etihad. I can't remember. But Thomas Frank is going in there, having never been there before, with limited resources. It's a promoted club, and they haven't played the most attractive football. But they have figured out a way to win the games that they deserve to win, because it doesn't matter if Crystal Palace beat Man City at the Etihad, right? Because they dropped other games they absolutely should not have, and teams that they should have beaten. So I don't know what that mindset is. But then again, when it comes down to it, only West Ham and David Moyes essentially are fighting for European football. So why isn't he in it?
It's just, I just really see the outstretch of what Patrick Vieira did. But and even with Eriksen came into Brentford. Eriksen was pulling strings really well at the end of the season, getting those wins against those top teams. And you can clearly see that the identity of how Crystal Palace play is through Patrick Vieira. So I'm a bit iffy with the arguments, but we agreed to disagree. So but who do you think is going to win it?
It's whoever wins the league. It's right. It's going to be Pep. And here this is something I've seen, and I don't agree with it. This is something I've seen, but I don't explicitly agree with it, though I understand. The money and the resources, should that even come into play when it comes down to it, right? When it comes down to manager of the year. And I really want to understand what people think about this, because it depends. If you're a Manchester City fan, you obviously believe Pep is going to, win this thing, or should win it, right? But when you think about how much he gets to spend, and how he gets to spend what he gets to spend, and all the control for the most part that he has in the building of his club, you think, well, it should be a lock that he competes and or wins every year. Well, he is about to potentially do a repeat. I don't know how much that comes into it. And I think it comes down to who you are and how you feel about the game of football, and whether or not you support these massive teams or you love supporting these underdogs that do so much more or do a whole lot with the resources or the limited resources that they're given. So I'm torn between it. But ultimately, I think whoever wins the league will likely get the manager of the year.
I agree with you. I'll side with Pep too. But the bold mention, I even feel bad by saying it now. Eddie Howe, for like how much of a fortress Newcastle was since he was there. Like that for me is the reasoning why I put like just a bold mention Eddie Howe, because I'm excited. I'm just hinting for next season what he's gonna do too. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got a question here. If you're going to take, Eddie Howe is moving into a role to where they would hope to turn Newcastle into a super club over time, right? But if you were to pick a better manager right now, a better English manager in the Premier League, you're saying you'd pick Eddie Howe over Graham Potter?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. If I'd pick I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't because like Graham Potter is excellent for me. He's underrated. But I think Eddie Howe is that's a hard one, because long term the answer will be told definitely, because two young English managers for me, they're the up and coming and the ones that are going to be leading. So I'm not going to say Rooney. Just to go.
I mean, it kind of. There you go. I like
Scott
that.
Parker.
Yeah.
Scott Parker maybe next season to surprise everyone. No?
We'll
Lampard.
see. Oh goodness! Wow. Yeah. Now we're scraping the barrel here. I mean, no. I like. Listen, Eddie Howe did great things for Bournemouth. It's been a little bit of time since we've seen that. He's just starting this role. He was the darling of the Premier League for some time, right? Graham Potter has now shown that he can do a lot with limited resources with Brighton. I just love that he is very principled. I believe he gets the most out of his team that he possibly can. I also believe he's great at talent identification, and whoever he's got above him is great at that as well.
Yep.
But it's not a bad problem to have if you're an English fan. It's not a bad problem to have two young managers that have shown they can do things, and now maybe they'll be moving up. And I just got to say is if Graham Potter was out of a job, right, and was available, and Newcastle came calling, do you think he would have been taken over Eddie Howe?
Yes, he would have. I think he would have. But I think if the job's available now, I think Newcastle's more than fine.
Yeah,
but
it probably is.
But in 5-6 months' time, it might be Eddie Howe is trying to get the dubs to justify him staying there, and Graham Potter could be going there. You never know, but that's how football changes. It's very fast.
Yeah.
So, but Eddie Howe, I don't think he's the manager though for the top four long term with Newcastle. I think he's the manager for this rebuild starting for 1-2 years. But the late stages, I think Newcastle are going to get a guy like Conte at Tottenham. A guy like Conte.
See. We'll see. I still can't see Antonio Conte on the sideline at St. James Park in the dead of winter.
well, even Jose Mourinho, you never know. Like I'd see Jose Mourinho prove, like, because he would want to. He would always. He'll always say hi to the Premier League. He'll always say hi.
Yeah. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Well, it's not quite the Premier League, but there was there were a lot of resolutions, a lot of winners, a lot of heartbreak this past week. None more so, I think, than the repeat of the Carabao Cup final and the ending of the Carabao Cup final.
Yes.
Chelsea versus Liverpool at Wembley. I honestly thought Chelsea was going to be able to pull it off and get something in there. But Liverpool, the quest for the quadruple is alive and well.
and Chelsea getting their third straight loss in the FA Cup, man. So Thomas Tuchel, I see him justifying saying Chelsea won 2 trophies this season. And yes, it is a fact. But for Chelsea fans, they're starting to worry, because at the beginning of the season, you spoke to Chelsea fans. They said they were going to head above or City or Liverpool, definitely. Top two in the Premier League. I saw a bunch of predictions. I'm not going to say who. That were putting Liverpool in the 3rd position in the Premier League. And now, it's not looking good. So for Tuchel,
No.
I think there's I'm not gonna say he's in the hot seat, but people are starting to put pressure on it. And Kante for me, I was surprised. I was surprised. Kante against Liverpool, that wasn't the best game from N'Golo Kante. So, but it was a
No,
very interesting one. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think there were quite a few you could lump into that.
Mhm.
Reece James, I don't think had the greatest game
Mhm.
either. And all I got to say is I was very happy to see Christian Pulisic get the start. It depends on who you ask,
Mhm.
but I do think he was the most dangerous player that Chelsea had. Most of them were half chances. Actually, there were a couple big chances, but he could have put one of those in, and that this game would have been completely different. And
Mhm.
I just also have to say, and this is a very, very casual observation, and it's probably stating the obvious,
Mm.
but Luis Diaz is a live wire. I mean, he is everywhere, and he can turn on a dime. He can whip a shot off on a dime. He can whip a cross off. I mean, everything from him. Easily the most dangerous player on the field for Liverpool throughout literally every minute of the game that he was in it.
Mhm.
So,
I'd say,
man,
I'd say he was pretty mad not getting a goal. You could see when he was going to
yeah,
the
oh
bench.
yeah,
And Robertson, there was a moment there too that Robertson should have finished it, in my opinion. I was quite surprised. Okay, I said it on pod, and yeah, Chelsea managed to upset this prediction of mine that I can't see a team like not scoring a goal in 90 minutes from Liverpool. It happened.
yeah,
It happened. And for that to happen, big boy Tony Rudiger had to be a full menace, okay, for that Liverpool attack. Rudiger was
yeah,
doing it all, and he was the problem for Trent too at that at the right side for Trent, because yeah,
yeah,
he was just predicting everything, every cross, anything that was gonna happen. So yeah, it was interesting for me seeing that Salah had a moment with Rudiger, and he's gonna play the final, as its club said afterwards. It's everything's
yeah,
fine, but he had to be
yeah. That's good.
subbed off with a
Hmm.
Rudiger foul, and I was thinking to myself, is Rudiger following the footsteps of Sergio Ramos during these
Could be.
moments? So it's he's going to the right place at Real Madrid, Rudiger. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was very interesting, and I gotta say too, Trent
Hmm.
Trent
Hmm.
Alexander-Arnold becomes the youngest Englishman to get all the trophies he can at club level. Okay, and another fact too is Allison. Allison has a clean sheet in a Champions League final, in a Club World Cup final, and now in an FA Cup final. So 3 clean sheets. And I look, Allison, for how good he is, people have to mention him in the best goalkeeper in the world. Allison must be there. So yeah,
Yeah.
Allison
Well,
Becker.
I've got a couple to add to that because you're
Mhm.
you're absolutely right there. And yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold is
Mhm.
collecting trophies like people collect Pokemon cards. And I believe he's now got what? Pretty much all the trophies out
Yep.
there,
6.
except the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, which you don't want that if you've got the Champions League anyway.
True.
So yeah, that is amazing, and he's just 23 years old. But once again, he did show a couple times his defensive frailties, but he also showed a couple times how he stood up to
Mhm.
shut people down.
He played well,
So it was
definitely.
yeah, he played very well. I thought he was the most effective player on the
Mhm.
field in terms of I mean, he had 16 crosses or something. Um,
Mhm.
but I gotta say, it was heartening. It was great to see a guy like Costas Tsimikas scoring the match winning goal and everybody giving him the. I mean, this guy's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Every time he's come on to back Andy Robertson up. And as far as a backup left back goes, you got to be pretty happy with what you've got. It was just very nice to see him score that last penalty. But on a sad note,
Mm.
I believe you ready for this? This is an interesting fact.
Mm.
Mason Mount
Okay.
has now lost 6 finals
Ooh.
at Wembley.
6.
Do that mental math. He's lost 6 finals at Wembley. Okay, so the European
So 3
Championship,
FA
you've
Cup.
got three. Oh yeah, a Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
what's the other one? There's got to
Oh
be
my
another. Is it
days.
two Carabao Cup finals?
Does he have England? Oh no, 6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
my days. That's six.
And
6 is pretty bad. 6 is
6 is pretty
traumatizing
bad.
almost.
6
But
is
3 FA
traumatizing.
Cup.
Yeah.
But he's unlucky that the FA Cup is always not unlucky, but it's the FA Cup is always in Wembley. So
It is.
uh,
It's just it is tough. I mean, and one day I'm pretty sure. I mean, Mason Mount is only 23 as well.
mhm.
He will break that curse. But until then, it's gonna hang on
And it
his
was
shoulders.
his penalty. And it was his
Yeah,
penalty. Oh, that
yeah.
just. Oh,
It's tough.
But Mason Mount
It's tough.
definitely gonna be a Chelsea legend. But damn, this is not tough. 6. But I gotta say,
Yeah.
with the number 6 too, there's another
Mhm.
player that has a great stat for him, and it's Jordan Henderson becomes the first captain in Liverpool history to lift 6 trophies. 6
There you go.
trophies. So big up to Jordan Henderson. And my question is, like, is he a greater captain than Stevie G? Not player.
No.
He's not a better player than Stevie G. But is Jordan Henderson a better captain? I think he's a better voice on the pitch. But with talent, Stevie G's much through the roof better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of that meme that says that's bait. That's a trap. I don't even want to get sucked into a conversation like that.
I get
Because
you,
Stevie G was a captain in and of his own right, and I think any
Mhm.
Liverpool fan, if a Liverpool fan wants to make the bold statement that Henderson's a better captain than Gerrard, I am all for that argument.
Mm.
For watching it. But hey, another stat before we move on for this because it was pretty
Mhm.
awesome. Even though the triumvirate of Mo Salah, Diogo Jota, and Sadio Mane weren't necessarily on the mark or off the
Mhm.
mark, whichever way you want to put it, in this FA Cup final, they have become, and this is in the Premier League, it's not in the FA Cup, they have become only the second Premier League team,
Mm.
okay, to have 3 players above 15 goals for the year. So you've got Sadio Mane with 15, you've got Diogo Jota with 15, and you've got Mo Salah with 22. And the only other team that had this stat was Manchester City. And I just wanted to throw out there, I wanted to see, can you guess what 3 players it was if I give you the year?
Mm. The year Aguero. Oh, so the year.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me the year. So.
You're onto it. It was 8 years ago. So Aguero,
Yaya. No.
Yaya, yes, yep.
Aguero. Yaya. Tevez.
Close,
Adebayor?
but no.
No.
This guy is in the throes of a Scudetto race.
Just say I'm gonna.
Dzeko.
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 Oh yes, Dzeko. Yes, Dzeko. Dzeko.
So that's a fun little stat that has nothing to do with the FA Cup because it's all Premier League goals. But I just wanted to get it in there because, I mean, it's impressive. And then you think about you have Luis Diaz as well.
Exactly. If Luis Diaz was there, they would break that record essentially.
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Or
more. Oh my days.
yeah.
So it just shows Luis Diaz signing of the season. Cooking? No. Cooking? No.
He's got to be up there. He's got to be up there.
It's got to be in that debate, right? So,
Absolutely.
FA Cup comments. Put down below, people, who do you think was the man of the match in the FA Cup? And yeah, big up to Liverpool. Still in that quadruple race. Race.
Hanging on.
I wanted to highlight the Stevie G comment that I had to say. I want to talk with Breton about this because just shows if this is what Stevie G thinks at the top 6. Did you see the news? Who did he think were the top 6 midfielders? Stevie G.
No.
So
I don't know if I got this. Yeah.
Stevie G's top 6 midfielders, in his opinion, right now have Rodri, Fabinho,
Okay.
Kovacic, Kevin De Bruyne, Mount, and Jude Bellingham. These are Stevie G's top 6 midfielders in the world right now. Oh,
That's really interesting.
for me,
Well, you can.
oh,
Yeah, sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
shocked.
Go
Like
ahead.
for me, seeing Stevie
Yeah.
G says that just shows why there's so much English bias towards so many of these players, because not having Modric and these top
Mhm.
6 midfielders in the world, in my opinion, especially when he's doing hat tricks in the hat tricks of assists in the first half when he
Yeah.
plays. Oh,
I don't agree. I would like to think that maybe there's more context
mm,
um, to this. Maybe it's just English players abroad and then the Premier League.
mm,
Because I don't know how, like, even a Kovacic, like, what?
yeah.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever as a best midfielder. I understand. You can tell, right, from
Mm-hmm.
the players that he picks. You can tell what attributes
Mm-hmm.
that he weights very highly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Determination, tackling,
True.
general vision, general positioning sense.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get what maybe the point he's trying to get across, but yeah, I mean, and not have some of the names that we know should be in there makes no sense. So I was not expecting that because I didn't see that list, and I think I missed that altogether.
I was like,
There's got
what?
to be context. G.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, but Jude and not Pedri. Ooh, that was what I was going.
Mm,
Stevie G, man. Like, if
hey.
by the way of things, Jacob Ramsey would be in the top 10.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Well, or his he did just sign Coutinho. You never
Yes,
know. We might
20
be talking about that.
million, 20 million
Yeah.
pounds, Coutinho. That,
Yeah, well, I gotta say, it's only a 150 million euro loss for FC Barcelona. So hey, they're doing good business.
oh my goodness. And
That's wrong.
but they were gonna say, but it was gonna be a 40 million buy option. So it just
Mm.
shows they had no negotiation power with Aston Villa. So it was like 20 million that Aston Villa bought him. So it's interesting. Just shows that
Yeah,
Barca are in a very, very bad position negotiating.
they are. They absolutely are. And I mean, all across the board,
Mm-hmm.
they had to give up on Haaland. I know they're going to chase down Lewandowski, but you guys are going to talk about that a lot this week. I think you and Carvalho are going to be talking about FC Barcelona and their future.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to Stevie Gerrard getting Coutinho
Mm-hmm.
for 20 million, and I think he's lowering his salary significantly to be there,
Mm-hmm.
is important. What I want to make sure that he doesn't do is that he doesn't chase guys like Carney Chukwuemeka, a Jacob Ramsey out the door, because their academy is phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
and their academy continues to throw out these gems that obviously they're not the polished product yet, but
Mm-hmm.
they could really grow into something incredibly special. So I really hope that they make sure that they get that Chukwuemeka what's the word, extension, right,
Mm-hmm.
contract extension done. Keep the young boys in there, let them become part of the core, and learn as much as they can from a Coutinho, and hopefully they can get the Emi Buendias of the world and the Leon Baileys back fully healthy,
True.
and being productive members of the Aston Villa society moving forward. But you never know. You never know. But wow. Um, what was, anything else out there that threw you for a loop, from a transfer perspective? I
Well,
think there was a certain somebody in Germany that might have moved on.
Well,
You know,
jeez, we got 2 players. I wanted to say that definitely that Bundesliga is gonna change next season,
it
and
is
it's the
dramatic.
departure of Erling Haaland going to Man City and the departure of Lewandowski going
Yeah.
to Barcelona. People, he is going to Barcelona. Okay, Xavi. Like a month or 2 ago, we already had seen that Xavi was in the talks with Lewandowski, and now they're just hard bargaining. Bayern Munich know that they won't get that contract extension. And for me, the interesting topic can be who will go and replace Lewandowski at Bayern Munich, because there's
Correct.
a huge vacancy with 12 million, okay, a year that aren't going to be with Lewandowski. So they need to replace it with a star player. And they're already hinting 2 names. Okay, I see
Hmm.
definitely a lot in the news. And Bayern Munich are reportedly interested in Sadio Mane, which very, very good if they manage to snatch up Sadio Mane from Liverpool, because he would be an excellent star man at Bayern Munich. And the second player is Cristiano Ronaldo out of Man United to Bayern Munich, which would also have ridiculous numbers. And yes, I think they could get a Champions League with Ronaldo at the helm up front. I believe in it. So those are the two names.
I mean, both of those names seem mildly short-sighted. I ask you, because if Lewandowski leaves, and I know that he has come out and he has said that he is no longer, or he has rejected, I guess, contract advances. Next year, you got to think that there is an open possibility that Bayern finally lets go of their Bundesliga hegemony. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Their power on it. But you're right. If they bring in a Cristiano Ronaldo, I just don't know. That might not gel. It might not work. I have no clue. There's just as many risks as there are.
So Christian wouldn't work at Bayern Munich?
I mean, I'm not saying that outright. I'm just saying,
there's a possibility.
What has worked for them over these last 10 years, right? Of them just continually winning the Bundesliga has been what? Continuity, consistency, core, with some revolving parts that add big pieces, like Serge Gnabry and the continued development of him, and obviously Joshua Kimmich turning into a world-class defender and midfielder, right? But that continuity does get beaten up if you're only looking out 1 year by bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo.
I agree.
Right, or 2 years.
I agree. 1 year, 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'd be bad at Bayern. I won't go with that one. But I think Bayern Munich would improve. I think it would be a team that would improve with Ronaldo. Yeah. And with me, it's Schwinch. Look what's happening with Schwinch without Ronaldo. Like, I feel like he's unlucky with the management around him, because Ronaldo can't make every decision. And Schwinch right now, I'll be honest, with Allegri, the decisions don't seem to be getting better without Ronaldo there, because I see that they're interested to bring in Di Maria and Ivan Perišić on free agent moves. Okay, so I don't know if that's the right move for Juve to do. To get more aging players, I don't know. I'm not feeling Allegri at Juve. I'll be honest with you. I am not feeling it.
No, I'm with you there. They're coming off. This is the first trophyless season they've had in a decade. That's a big deal.
That's why Chiellini is off. Chiellini is off to the MLS.
Yeah, I think it's LA. Is it LAFC or Vancouver? One of the two. I think he's going LAFC. But yeah, no. With that, Juventus, I mean, what we can't do, though, is I don't want to gloss over Ivan Perisic's. I mean, what he has done this year as a 33-year-old.
True.
If we talk about Luka Modric aging like fine wine, and he's significantly older than Ivan Perisic, Ivan Perisic is definitely aging like fine wine.
True.
I mean, he has done just. Was it recently? Yeah, it was in the Coppa Italia final. He came on and he single-handedly essentially won Inter that in extra time, got it done. And I just have to say, if you look at the golden generation of Croatia, Luka Modric is definitely the best. He is the shining star of that. Ivan Perisic is not that far off for what he has also done for the Croatian national team. Okay? Luka Modric has 21 goals and 148 caps, and I get it, different positions. Perisic has 32 goals in 113 caps and continues to motor on and be this massive influence, at least in Serie A. And, I get it. It's taken him some years to really have that sustained effect on a club like he has had at Inter, but it makes it no less awesome to see. But I just have to tell you, last time Juventus was trophyless, you ready for this? The last time Juventus was trophyless, 10 years ago, Inter Milan won the Coppa Italia,
Okay.
but guess who won the Scudetto?
Milan. AC Milan.
AC Milan. Yeah.
Bora Rafael, yo. That's what I love to see. And I completely agree with you when you say Perišić. And I just want to hint that name too, Brozovic. I think Perišić and Brozovic, both Croatian elite players. And yeah, they're going to do something in that World Cup. They're definitely going to be with those two players. And yes, I agree. And Perišić, if I'm remembering right, Mourinho wanted Perišić when he was at Man United. And people were deeming him not good enough. Not good enough. So this just shows that Mourinho, maybe if he had gotten who he wanted at Man United, like Perišić, maybe the story would have been a lot different. I know a center back would have been a lot different. But yes, Perišić, great shout. And with Inter, just wanting to leave it out. Lautaro has the price for Lautaro is 60 million euros. It's been revealed, okay? Inter has put it out, so whoever's gonna sign Lautaro is for 60 million. And I'll be honest with you, it's a fair price. It's a fair deal for whoever gets him because Lautaro is a baller, man. Absolute baller, bagsman, and yeah, he would add a lot to any team he goes to.
Yeah, and just remember the narrative at the beginning of the season, the turmoil of Lukaku having to leave, of Conte leaving, right? There was all expectation for Inter to take a step back. Yes. Enter Aiden Dzeko, enter Calhanoglu, enter Barella, enter Dumfries, and you've got this team that is competing once again. And you know, they're doing so by scoring a whole lot of goals. I think they've got 13, 14 more goals than AC Milan this season. But they also have an incredibly effective defense. Exactly. They've given up the exact same amount of goals as AC Milan. And that's why they're just going back and forth. And Serie A is definitely the most exciting race of this year.
Well, when Juventus doesn't just go and win it all, it's like maybe Bayern Munich. If Bayern Munich were just a sheer force, maybe the Bundesliga would be like a bit like Serie A right now.
Yeah, but I don't mean to take us all the way back to where we were because I know your timestamps on this are going to be insane. But we really did gloss over. You were saying it, and you were absolutely right. Erling Haaland moving from the Bundesliga, Robert Lewandowski moving from the Bundesliga. I mean, who's the other one? Oh, Christo Nkunku might be moving on from the Bundesliga, right?
Yes.
That is like 70 plus Bundesliga goals that are moving out the door and need to be replaced in some capacity. Whoa. And I looked back at the scoring charts over the last 10 years. That type of like cannibalism from the goals in the Bundesliga, that has never happened before. So there is like the Bundesliga could be changing, and as we talked about, it could be changing for the better in terms of parity, more teams being able to rise to the top. But man, it's impressive. It's impressive.
I think it's up for grabs, and I agree with you. But with Nkunku, I feel like for me, he's the biggest star, and Nkunku's got a mad stat this season. And Nkunku becomes the first player in the history of the Bundesliga to get four Player of the Month awards. Nkunku's the first player ever, okay? And it's no surprise by having 32 games, 20 goals, and 14 assists. So unreal numbers by Nkunku, and understandably Leipzig want to keep them because Leipzig have the same feeling as you, that the Bundesliga is up for grabs and someone can get it. It. And if I was Leipzig, I would do everything to keep Gvardiol and Nkunku because if they have these two, they can win it.
They absolutely can, and I think that they did what they needed to do, what was absolutely fundamentally necessary for them to have a shred of hope to hold on to Nkunku. They needed to get that Champions League football, and they got it. They will be Champions League, playing Champions League football next year, which might set the stage for them. Yeah. And who knows, maybe if Andre Silva comes in and has a 30-goal year again, like he's certainly capable of, you might have Red Bull Leipzig very close to the top of the table next year. But there's already an injection. I mean, right when Erling Haaland was on his way out the door, not even a day later, who was announced for Borussia Dortmund?
Karim Adeyemi. And yeah, it's the right deal for Dortmund. They go they go literally to the same team as they went to get Erling Haaland, and he's a German player. He's got a lot of fiercefulness. Garre, focusedness, determination. Karim Adeyemi has a dream, and he wants to prove to Bayern that he's a baller, because he used to be a Bayern Academy player, and he left, and the rest is history.
Well, the rest is history, and history, it's important history, because that 38 million euros that is going in the door, and it might be a little bit less than that, but there's a very heartwarming part to this story, and it was confirmed by Karim himself. Karim's boyhood club, I believe it was Unterhaching, okay? His boyhood club is going to get 20% of that fee. 20% of that fee, okay? So you're talking about this, lower level German football squad that is going to get about 7 million euros in the door, which if you go and you look at their overhead, right, their costs per year, it's going to extend their life many years and then some, and actually you get a little bit of a trickle down effect with what's going on here. So Karim Adeyemi with Daniel Malen with another year, hopefully with a healthy Gio Reyna. But there's one other big part that happened here. Not only did they right away stem the tide of the Haaland leaving and how sad they were by signing Adeyemi, Jude Bellingham also came out and said, I am absolutely going to be here at Signal Iduna next season. And that is important. And no, we weren't expecting him to move on like right away. But you got to believe, there are people that are readying bids as fast as they can for a guy like Jude Bellingham. So I'm going to watch Dortmund once again. The addition of Nico Schlotterbeck.
I would say it, people. I would say it. Oh, the Scotlandberg. Oh my god, I find this. That's a hard name. But yeah, Gio Reyna to be back. And yes, who answered the Adeyemi arrival too? Was Moukoko. Moukoko. Yes, he did. If there was a needed goal against Hertha Berlin, and Haaland got it, and then Moukoko, 17-year-old Yusuf Moukoko, that he's gonna leave, as all the news are hinting, scores the goal to show the last goal of the season, to show Dortmund that they've got a talent there already. And yeah, maybe they should trust on Moukoko.
They might have to. I mean, Moukoko also shattered the Bundesliga hopes, survival hopes of Hertha Berlin by scoring that goal too, and made I forget which team ended up staying up. It was not Frankfurt. It was
Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Stuttgart. Yeah. Big up Tjak Maj. Big up Tjak Maj. Staying up.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And that is an American-born coach, Matarazzo, that is there. So big ups to him as well. And there is video online of his family watching in northern Jersey, watching that last goal that they still had to score in order to, jump above Hertha Berlin. And just seeing the sheer joy, tears, excitement around it, you couldn't. And I don't know if you saw the clip of them scoring that goal. Matarazzo ran over so this is the boss, right? Yes. He ran over to the fans. He slipped. He fell. He was on the bottom of the pile. There was a pile on top of him. I mean, it was the realest feeling of excitement. And then all 50-some thousand fans stormed the field as if they literally just won a cup. But anyway, it's just really, really. I mean, the Bundesliga, even with Bayern ruling the Bundesliga, is just always such an entertaining league to watch because there's so many good players, and
Mm-hmm.
Leverkusen has a possibility of building something. Wirtz,
I agree.
Patrick Schick has 24 Bundesliga goals this year, even with injuries, and he's the odds-on favorite to win the Golden Boot next year if
Sheesh.
Lewandowski leaves, right?
Yep,
So
I'd say he's definitely one of the favorites. And then you have Moussa Diaby too. There.
yeah,
Just bagging assists and goals too. Like,
love it.
Leverkusen is one of those teams. Like, maybe if Wirtz didn't get that ACL, maybe though, they would definitely be more up there. But would they have keep him after this summer though? That would be
That's a great question.
That's the question that like Bayern is like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But oh man. So Bayern Munich, and you said transfers. There's a transfer too that for me definitely deserves a mention, and it's Scamacca, because Gianluca Scamacca already has 16 league goals in my opinion, and I see so many rebels that need a striker. And if Sassuolo striker, guys, Serie A bagsman, and yeah, trust me, Sassuolo, Gianluca Scamacca is the man that can do the job at the striker role for a lot of those rebels that you see out there. So I just wanted to say that. 23-year-old too. So he's a youngster.
23. Yeah, and he's been phenomenal. He's also been on the radar, I think, of some of the Premier League clubs, right?
Yes.
But it's probably more likely that like an Inter or a what I don't know. I don't know what club would be best for him.
Inter, well, Juve not now, but like if there's a Prem team, you have Arsenal that they're in the talks to get a striker. You have Tottenham that Conte would know about Gianluca. But yeah, it's up for grabs, and yeah, I just wanted to put it up there because I see Darwin news for 100, for 80, for all these astronomical numbers that I'm not gonna say no to that, okay? Because Darwin Núñez is an absolute baller, but Scamacca, in my opinion, should get more of a rep, and yeah, if he's available, I think clubs should be lining up to go get him too.
Yeah, so all those names that you mentioned, Lautaro and Scamacca and all them, there are a lot of races for a number 9 this year, and you've got to add obviously Gabriel Jesus to that mix.
Yes.
But the valuation of Gabriel Jesus came in, and even though it doesn't seem like his deal is going to be extended, it seems like Manchester City's playing hardball in that they expect 50 to 60 million euros for him. When his contract is up soon?
His contract is up until when?
I don't know. I was hoping you would know that. But I know it's not like 4 or 5 years out.
If it's 2?
So 50, 60. Yeah. And so is that a proper valuation for Gabriel Jesus?
Well, if you see, that's a tough one because Gabriel Jesus, the late stages of this season, he does value that. But it's a tough one. But if it's 2 years, I understand. I do what Man City's doing with that hardball. And they seem to know what they do, especially with the Ferran Torres sale too. I'd say Gabriel Jesus, I'd sell him for 50, 60 million too, Breton. I'd sell, well, especially to Arsenal. Like they would want Arsenal with less funds, I'd say. And for me, like for Gabriel Jesus, the best decision is to go to Arsenal. He knows Arteta. He knows Arteta very well from when Arteta was an assistant coach with Guardiola. They all got praise each other. They love each other, as it seems, Arteta and Gabriel Jesus. And I honestly feel like if Arteta wants him, it's because he knows that he can do his role. So I think that would be the best decision for Gabriel Jesus to go to Arsenal.
Yeah. And Arsenal's already pretty active. I hear they're bringing in a 19-year-old striker, Brazilian striker from Sao Paulo, Marquinhos, who already has some goals, but definitely one for the future. So they're trying to find the next Gabriel Martinelli or something.
I've got an Arsenal youngster I can mention over here too, and it's William Saliba. I just wanted to hint out because yes, Saliba people, he does exist, Arsenal fans, and he's doing a really, really good season because he is nominated for the Ligue 1 Player of the Season. William Saliba. And I'll say something too. He's got 20 clean sheets in 51 games. William Saliba. And guess what? France called him up. And he has played for France this season 2. So I don't know what Saliba has to do to impress Arsenal and Arteta, but he should definitely get a chance, in my opinion. And if there's a team that wants to get a good deal for not a cheap price, because I think he'll be, how much do you think he'll be? I think 30-40 million just to get him off.
Actually, that's exactly what was going through my brain because I had a feeling you were going to ask. Yeah, 30 to 40 million sounds pretty good considering the shift he's put in at Marseille. I would love to see him get the chance, but more specifically, I would love to see Saliba just get the resolution that he deserves, right? The conclusion. Like, if Arsenal doesn't want him and they can't find a way to fit him in, then sell him off, get what you need from him, and give him a fresh start, whether it's back at Marseille, whether it's somewhere higher, I don't know. But ultimately, I mean, I think he deserves at least a resolution to his his career's future, because he's certainly up to the task, and he's been great. Even though Marseille, I think, fell short, a little more short than they would have liked. But hey, they went to a European semifinal. They're pretty high up in the League One table. They've been pretty solid and kind of fun to watch this year. But yeah, Saliba, I could just as easily see him slotted into that 11 for Arsenal next season. But we'll see. Only time will tell, right?
Well, yeah, I just hope it's Arteta, because Arteta, he's real like yes and no type guy. There's no middle. There's no middle. Yeah. And we know Saliba left in the middle. So
yeah, that's true.
that's why I'm like, I just hope Arteta gives him that chance.
Well, moving on from Arsenal, because we've talked about them quite a bit, we do have to go back over to Manchester United for a second, because I don't know if we know this, but Manchester United have had every possibility to sign Erling Haaland back in the day, right when Solskjaer was there. They also had every ability to potentially sign Adeyemi because of Ralph Rangnick there, but they wanted I think it was they didn't want a release clause or whatever Fabrizio Romano says goes, right? Okay, so those are negatives, right? But now let's talk about a positive. Let's talk about the Manchester United future. Okay? And one that should lie more in their youth academy. Like, please, okay? We talk about all these gems. We've always talked about Mejbri. We've always talked about Shola Shoretire. We've always talked about Charlie McNeil and giving Ethan Laird maybe a chance. But when it comes down to it, we've seen one rise from literally having 0 Instagram followers to now he's got like millions. Alejandro Garnacho and the Manchester United U18s put on a show to beat Nottingham Forest in front of 67,000 people in the FA Youth Cup final. And if you can't look at something that, that exudes positivity as a United fan, or if you need positivity as a United fan, look no further than there. Because you've got some ballers in that squad, and I just hope that some of them can land a spot in the senior team next season. It was great to see.
You mentioned Alejandro Garnacho, that I agree with him with the GOAT talk. I just wanted to say that, okay?
Come on.
And saying the C after getting the guaranteed goal that secured the FA Youth Cup, I gotta say, Garnacho, you're following the right footsteps, my guy. And he's got 33 games, 15 goals, and 6 assists. And he's already won the Jimmy Murphy Young Player of the Season. That is basically the best player in the Man United Academy. That Shola Shoretire won the year previous. That is another player on the wings that is coming up. Note, put down below. Remember the name, Shola Shoretire, and the other, Ilanga. Ilanga won the other year. So the three players that won the Jimmy Murphy Young Player of the Year award are the players competing for the winger slot at Man United right now. Garnacho, Ilanga, and Shola Shoretire. So I love to see it. But Garnacho, the man.
Yeah, man. It's a really bold move for Garnacho to just unequivocally say that, Ronaldo is the GOAT when he's Argentine, right? When he is literally been in a training camp with Messi.
Yes.
So I more power to him, but at the same time, you can probably slow down that rhetoric as a 17 or 18-year-old, considering that, Messi is definitely one of your country's or your country's greatest footballer ever.
I get you.
That's all. Maradona versus Messi. Oof.
But I get you. I get you. He's Garnacho
Unbelievable.
this season though. He won the Jimmy Murphy, but he's had his Man United debut too, which big up
Yes.
on him with that. And he's played for Argentina too. I gotta say
true.
that. And if he says that about Messi, Ronaldo, I love it. But it's just great that Garnacho has the chance to play with both. With both. So let's see what's gonna happen with Garnacho. High expectations, my guy. Okay, good choices in life you're doing. So keep on doing them, Garnacho.
Well, we can't forget about La Liga.
Yes.
And I know we're into Wonder Kids in the news, and he probably doesn't qualify as a Wonder Kid because he's 21 now. But we do have to bring up the fact, because this was pretty surprising to me, that Vinicius Jr. scored his first hat-trick. His first hat-trick in a Real Madrid jersey. Okay?
Finally got it done.
I finally got it done. As if this season couldn't get any sweeter for him. They win La Liga. They have their best shot at a Champions League final coming up. And he's got 21 goals and 20 assists on the season. 41 goal involvements for somebody that a year and a half ago, people were ready to essentially call him, something that is right below a flop. Not quite a flop, but like getting dangerously close to being a flop. So it is absolutely amazing to see this kid, and he's getting bolder and bolder in every match out. Right? He's becoming more inevitable every game that he plays. And it's just going to be interesting to see whether or not Karim Benzema is part of that secret sauce that makes Vinicius so good. Or if in the future Vinicius Jr. can continue to be as good even without the Benzema partnership that's definitely bloomed. What do you think?
You're hitting the money. That is very true. Vinicius is the player he is this season at least because he is with Benzema. He's a very different player when he doesn't have that link up with Benzema. And often, I'm going to say this, he looks a bit disappeared on the pitch. Okay, and Benzema gives him guidance. You can see that. But he's balling. He's balling with Benzema there. And for me, this was surprising because there's a lot of under 21-year-olds. But Vinicius is the under 21 with most goal involvements in the world. Vinicius Jr. And yes, we would. 41. So it's like, that's madness. And what I got to say too is, we would judge him off his shot, and now we cannot judge him with that. And in the past, too, like a year ago, when we started the poll, we were saying, oh, Benzema is criticizing Vinicius' shot. Like, that can happen. That is embarrassing, How does Vinicius feel with that? Well, he felt that he had to work it. So he did. And, seeing that Vinicius has improved it, I got to say, I'm hyped for next season. And every day that passes, I really believe we're going to see Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. and Benzema with Real Madrid.
Unreal.
And that is it's just unreal because this is what I really feel right now. Mbappe needs Real Madrid more than Real Madrid needs Mbappe right now, in my opinion. It's gotten to that stage. And nobody's bigger right now than Real Madrid. Their future, their decision making. Like maybe Barca too. But they look pretty safe for the future. So I gotta say that.
Yeah, that's a big statement because it's getting to the point where it doesn't matter if Kylian Mbappe scores 3 goals against Clermont or 3 goals against Stade de Reims. They just don't mean anything until he steps up his whether it's his domestic game on top. So I'll be interested to see. Real Madrid.
I've got one last thing too. I mentioned those 3 players, and who didn't mention? Eden Hazard. And I saw Carlo Ancelotti today saying that Eden Hazard is gonna come and play. Ancelotti said he is expecting Hazard to play next season for Real Madrid. So that puts me just. If Mbappe is coming, you expect Hazard to play? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe as a cut rate backup. But we'll know Ancelotti's lying if he comes out next week and says Gareth Bale's staying. Um, I don't
Nah.
know, man. I don't know.
Nah.
But if you asked me, if we went back in a time machine and
Mhm.
you asked either one of us a year and a half ago,
Mhm.
you know, if Vinicius and Rodrigo, two incredibly high
Different.
investments that
True.
were made by Real Madrid, right? Two big investments that were made well before they were really anything
Yes.
special. Okay. If you were to ask us back then that they were doing just a year and a half later what they're doing now, um, both you and I would have said absolutely not. I mean,
Ah.
we would have said absolutely not. Vinicius, you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn a year ago,
True.
a year and a half ago. So, and it doesn't necessarily obviously come all down to Benzema because Benzema's been there as well.
Mhm.
Um, so something about this season just clicked, and it's whether it's the work ethic, whether it's getting called out by Benzema,
Mhm.
and instead of taking it personally, seeing it as a motivational tool to just get better. I
Mhm.
don't know what it was, but something has clicked in Vinicius's head to be where the haters they're making him greater, and it's a wonderful thing to see. And I think Real Madrid is going to be a lot of trouble. I do think Real Madrid, Barcelona,
Mhm.
that is going to continue for the foreseeable future. But I think Real Madrid's got the hot hand moving forward, especially if they get Mbappe.
El
But
Clasico is gonna be heated.
it
Heated.
is in a different way too, and I'm excited. I'm excited about that. It used to be Ronaldo versus Messi. It used to be, that I'm excited for the change,
Mhm.
right? The change in fabric of it all. And if it's Gavi, Pedri versus Vinicius, Rodrigo, Benzema over the year, I think that's going to be a lot of fun because it's different, fresh, new. But anyway, a lot more went on. I don't know how
Mhm.
much more time we got,
Mm.
but I just want to make sure we give credit where credit's due. We got to
Yes.
go over to Belgium really quickly.
Mhm.
Club Bruges just scored. Club Bruges just won their third consecutive Pro League title, three in a row, um, and doing it at the same time as already knowing that their head boss is headed to
Ajax.
the Ajax.
Yes.
So, Alfred Schroeder is already on his way to Ajax,
Mhm.
but they still had to come back, right? And they had to, narrow a deficit to Union Saint-Gilloise.
Mhm.
I don't know if I said that correctly. And they needed to they got, Tejan Buchanan scoring good goals. They got a 17-year-old Antonio Nusa
Mhm.
scoring. They've got Andreas Skov Olsen, who's only come in recently, who's got 5 goals, 8 assists. Just so many bright spots. Charles de Ketelaere, Noah Lang, who might head to Ajax with him. Who knows?
Mhm.
But just wanted to bring up they trailed all season and they just three-peated, won their third in a row. So kudos to them. They're like the new Anderlecht for me because I love watching the young
Ah.
players that they sign and that they bring through. And it's a good combination altogether. So congratulations to Club Brugge on winning their third consecutive title.
I, I
But there's
just
also,
I just wanted
yeah,
to
go
say
ahead.
with Alfred Schroeder, an interesting fact, okay, for the people that like bold people, he, Ajax has nominated 4 bold managers in a row: Peter Bosch, Erik
Yep.
Ten Hag, Marcel Kaiser, and now Alfred Schroeder. 4 bold managers in a row. I don't know. I don't know what's the CV for Ajax, but you gotta go
Yeah.
bold. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that.
Well, and it's also funny that a Club Bruges wins and they have a manager who's departing for Ajax, and Ajax also just won their 36th Eredivisie title.
Sheesh.
Um, while obviously knowing that Erik ten Hag was going to be leaving for Manchester United this summer. But in that one, you got to bring up that both of these clubs are turning into you want to find the next best, the next greatest, the next whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can do no worse by looking at both of these clubs
True.
and kind of picking and choosing who you want from there. And Ajax, obviously, this past year got massive step ups in game from Urian Timber,
Mm-hmm.
from Divine Wrench. And on top of that, I got to bring up this young kid who's not that young anymore. He's 20. But if you want to know whether or not home hits the hardest, or there's no place like home, you got to look at a guy like Brian Brobbey, who has been everywhere and back to Red Bull Leipzig, not playing as much, now back at Ajax. When all is said and done, Ajax essentially got some massive goals from him late in the game to essentially win the Eredivisie title. He, in 4 starts and just 11 appearances for Ajax, has 7 goals. Okay? And a big reason that they were able to pursue, confirm, and get the Eredivisie title back in their pockets.
Play Brobbey. Play
Yeah,
Brobbey. Oh,
play him.
like he and he had an interesting one going to the Bundesliga. Weird times. I love it. I love to see now Brian Brobbey taking off, and maybe we see Nasi Unuvar and Sonche Hansen coming up
One day.
One day.
One day.
Hopefully it's gonna happen. Hopefully it's gonna happen. But you're big up to Ajax. I have to give big up to Benfica, because Benfica did an amazing job, in my opinion, by selecting Diego Moreira. Okay, he played his first game for Benfica, and I gotta highlight, in that same game, Henrique Araújo went bold, and he scored a first half brace. And for me, it's no surprise. Henrique Araújo, lethal finisher. He's focused. He's got determination. And look, he was even the bagsman for the UEFA Youth League final for Benfica, bagging in a hat-trick. So I've got really high expectations with Henrique Araújo, and I just want to put this out there too. Real Madrid, Marca newspaper, they released news saying that Real Madrid are looking closely to 4 academy youngsters, and those players are Henrique, Moukoko, Henrique Araújo, and Rocco Simic. Real Madrid are already following closely these 4 players, according to Marca. And it's no surprise. And this just shows that they know talent, because all of these 4 are ballers, are elite ballers. So I just wanted to say that.
Man, if they got all 4 of them, I don't see that happening. But because I think they were what was the rumored cost for Moukoko was like 10 million euros, right? You got to think though, for like a Rocco Simic, who I think was signed for like 4.5 million euros for Red Bull Salzburg, he's got to go for more than that right now. So anyway, that'd be a hell of a transfer of 4 players in. But Araújo, absolutely. I mean, what a season! But I do have to ask you. You've got Gonzalo Ramos. You've got Darwin Núñez likely out the door, right? Does he get Henrique? Does he get his shot next year to essentially? Okay. Cool.
Henrique Araújo, I'll tell you this. I'll say to everyone on FC Wonderkid, Henrique Araújo, his mentality, he's built different. This is a kid that is very, very focused. Yes, his football ability is extremely high, but his mental ability, this kid is the real deal, Bretson. He is a finisher. I really believe Henrique Araújo is going to go very high. But you mentioned too Gonçalo Ramos. For me, Gonçalo Ramos is going to have a terrific next season. I think next season, Henrique Araújo and Gonçalo Ramos are going to be balling for Benfica. So I hope I'm right with that. I hope I'm right, because for FC Wonderkid, that'd be amazing. So I really believe that they're going to ball out.
And watch it be a Seferovic 25 goal year next year instead. I know. I'm just kidding. He's
Yarim too. Like, he's an interesting player that, what's going to happen with it? And Carlos Vinicius, I don't know. He's on loan to PSV, where Roger Schmidt was. So he might find it interesting to bring him back, but let's see. But those 2 strikers, people, watch out. Gonçalo Ramos and Henrique Araújo. Very good.
And the other one that has intrigued me from that youth league team that I think he got his debut is Martin Neto.
I like him.
Do you think he can play a bigger role next year too? Or
I think so, but it depends a lot on Paul Bernard's position. If Paul Bernard plays at the 6 more, yes. But Martin Neto is a baller. People, watch out for him too. And his passing ability, dictating that tempo. He is very, very good. So it all depends on where, in my opinion, Paul Bernard plays. And there's a contract extension too that Martin Neto. There's a bit of doubt with that, but I think he's going to sign it because it's the best decision for him to stay at Benfica. So I'd say though, at Shed and Dur next season's got to play. If it's not at Benfica, it's gonna be somewhere. He's a baller. Shed and Dur. So he's gonna play.
They've got they've got a glut of prospects that they're gonna have to sift through. There's only one other thing I wanted to bring. We brought attention to Celtic last week.
Yes.
Celtic did get it over the line. So congratulations to Celtic and everybody there. Big Ange Ball is obviously in favor with everybody there at Celtic Park. And I think, alive and well is the Rangers-Celtic, rivalry. So it'll be really interesting for years to come. But the last thing I wanted just to ask you, you probably don't have a drink there. I don't have a drink here. But I did want to pour one out for Venezia.
I got water.
Yeah, good. Pour it out, man. Pour it on your head or something. No, I mean, the team in Serie A with obviously the nicest jerseys, which means absolutely nothing. Venezia FC is on its way out the door. They will be Serie B. They were relegated. The only reason I wanted to bring that up is because you got two young ballers on that team that are Americans. It's owned by an American, and we hope to see them back sometime soon. But man, mid-year, I thought they had a shot at staying up. They were collecting, some players here and there, like David Okereke I believe it was from Club Brugge.
Did Nani go there?
Nani went there. I think he's been injured mostly. So just a lot of things that just didn't work out for them. So while it was always stacked against them, they're on their way down. So hopefully they can give me some clearance jerseys or something, because those jerseys are still fire.
They are fire. Venetia jerseys, those jerseys were elite. Classic mixed with retro mixed with new. I love it. But you mentioned Celtic for a brief second, and I just want to highlight a player. I was mentioning Benfica, Celtic, Jota. Jota ends up this season with 40 games, 13 goals, and 14 assists. So my message to Jota is stay at Celtic one more season and then go to the Premier League, because you are destined to go to the Premier League, and maybe Wolves. Yeah. We don't know. Okay. We don't know. So put down below, what did we forget here at episode 56? What haven't we mentioned? And if you want to support us more, go to fcwonderkid.com. And please, people, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're still here with us listening to the podcast.